Alrighty, well, I trimmed my hair earlier today, what I have left of it. Trimmed it down pretty good and shaved my old beardular area down too. Some. Cleaned myself up a little bit. We got a real bad storm here today and dumped a bunch more snow on the ground. I was in town today and it got real bad when I was in town. By the time I got out here, things were getting pretty intense. Anyway, the truck is parked now, at least for the next day or two. Plus, there isn't any gas in it to speak of anyway, so I can't really go anywhere. Next time I take that truck out, I'm going to have to put gas in it because there just isn't enough gas to go anywhere other than to take it to put gas in it at this point. But anyway, that's not really what I want to talk about right now, Vol. I want to talk again about this whole deal with Trump and Canada and Canadians thinking that Trump is picking on us or whatever, The thing is, again, it comes down to the thing about securing our borders and about how, Canada now has decided to throw a tantrum because Canada don't like being told what to do. And look, I understand not liking being told what to do. I don't like to be told what to do. So I get it. And, like I say, generally, what somebody does is nobody else's business. But here's the thing. Even I, as resistant as I am to being told what to do, I will acknowledge that there are situations where another person might actually have a right to tell me what to do. Those situations are very specific and very limited, but they do exist. And here's the thing. I'll go back to the example of neighbors or whatever. My youngest sister, okay, she has some neighbors just down the street from her. I've met them. Very nice men, very pleasant to talk to and everything. I have no issue with them personally. Anyway, these two men, they're a homosexual couple. They're older men. They're actually elderly men now. They've been together for decades. And they're a homosexual couple. Now, from a biblical point of view, I disagree with them. Because, of course, we know what God says about these kinds of practices and stuff. But I don't think that gives me a right to tell them what to do. And like I say, personally, I like them. I've met them, and I like them. I have no issue with those two guys. But at the same time, the Bible does say that we shouldn't be practicing those sorts of things. And so let's say then that I was their neighbor. I was living where my sister lives. So I was their neighbor. And let's say I took it upon myself to decide that I don't like the way they live, and I'm going to make it my mission to force them to stop living that way. That would be unreasonable. That would be me overstepping. That would be me sticking my nose in where it doesn't belong. Because ultimately, whatever those two guys do behind closed doors in their own house is their business. Doesn't matter if I agree with it or not. Doesn't matter what my spiritual beliefs are. I should have no say over what they do in their house that they have bought and paid for with their money. Doesn't matter how I feel about it. And so, yeah, in that case, I'd be overstepping. Well, see, it's the same thing with Trump. Trump doesn't have a right to tell us how to conduct our affairs in this country. Although I will say, personally, I think we should take some advice from him because we're not doing a good job. But still, he doesn't really have a right to tell us how to run our country. But here's the kicker. Just like with the two guys down the street from my sister, the homosexual men, the couple, just like my sister wouldn't have a right to tell them what to do and what not to do in their private lives, and neither would I. Let's say, though, that they decided that they're not going to put their garbage out for collection anymore. I'll use this example. I used it before in a video. And so, instead of doing that, they said, we're going to just open the back door and throw our garbage out into our backyard. We're not going to be bothered putting it out at the curb on garbage day anymore. We're going to just dump it in the backyard instead. Okay, it's their backyard, obviously. It came with the house. They actually paid for that backyard. And normally it'd be their business what they do back there. You know, like if they want to get a picnic table and a barbecue and put it back there, that's their business. Nothing to do with anyone else. But here's the thing, okay? So they put a garbage dump in the backyard. They start tossing their garbage into the yard instead of putting it out for collection. Before long, there's a good pile of garbage there. It stinks. It's attracting flies and it's attracting rats. At that point, their business becomes their neighbor's business. Because the flies don't stay on one side of the fence, and neither does the stink, and neither do the rats. So now, you know, the neighbors have to deal with all of that, and they can't enjoy their backyard because they've got a garbage dump next door. You know, and every time they go outside, they get driven back inside by swarms of flies and by stink. And now they've got a rat infestation in their house because of it. Well, I mean, at that point, they have every right to go down the street, knock on the door, and say, hey, I know that's your backyard and all. I respect that. However, you've turned it into a garbage dump, and normally even that wouldn't be any of my business, except for the fact that now I can't enjoy my backyard because of it, and I've also got a rat infestation in my house because of it. You're going to need to do something about your garbage dump. You see, that would be reasonable. Now, if somebody goes to those guys' door and they say, hey, you know, I'm aware that you are homosexuals and that you're living together as a couple, and I disagree with that based on biblical principles, and so I'm going to have to insist that you stop. Well, that would be overstepping. That would be rude and obnoxious, and it would be overstepping. And they would have every right to look at that person and say, you know what you can do, and slam the door in their face. You see, there's the difference, because that doesn't affect anybody outside of that house. What they do behind closed doors is their business. Well, see, it's true that Trump doesn't have a right to interfere in Canada's internal affairs in general. He doesn't. He's not doing that. He's interfering with us in a situation that affects his country. That's what he's doing. Just like a neighbor would have a right to knock on the door and say, hey, your garbage dump is causing issues. Well, Trump has a right to knock on our door and say, hey, the Mexican cartels are taking up residence in your country because of your lax drug laws. Now, you can make your own laws. You know, Your criminal justice system is your own. However, because it's attractive to them, because there's very little risk in operating in your country, and because the border is very porous and unsecured, they're bringing their crap into the United States, and that's an issue. You know, basically, your garbage dump has become an issue for us because your stink and your flies and your rats don't stay in your yard. They come across into our yard and into our house. You know, your dope and other issues are coming across the fence into our yard and into our house. That's basically what the United States is saying. And they're not wrong. Now, I've had people tell me, well, they only intercepted 40 pounds of methamphetamine last year coming across from Canada into the United States. Now, I don't know if that figure's accurate or not. It may very well be. But I look at it and I say, okay, only 40 pounds. How much potential did that 40 pounds have to kill people? That doesn't take very much of that stuff to kill somebody. So how many potential deaths were stopped in their tracks? How many people were potentially saved from being killed by taking that 40 pounds of dope out of circulation? Plus, if they caught 40 pounds, that tells me that there's a lot more. Because what you see and what you catch is nothing compared to what's there. It's like when you see the rust bleeding out for the paint on a vehicle, and you see a little spot of rust like that on the rear quarter panel or something, you know? I got news for you. That little spot of rust like that you're seeing bleeding for the paint is actually a hole about a foot across. You take your hammer and you start knocking the loose stuff away. Just hit that piece of rust right in the center and open it up, and then start going out from there. And you'll have 6 inches, between 6 and 12 inches of a hole before you're finished. Because what you see is nothing compared to what's there. If you're sitting in a kitchen in a house and you see a cockroach run up the wall, and you say, oh, there's a cockroach in this house. No, that's not true. There's an infestation. That one that you saw was just the one that got brave and came out. I guarantee you, if you see one cockroach on the wall, inside the walls, it's teeming with them. That's how bad things are. What you see of a bad thing is just the tip of the iceberg. You know? You see one cockroach, I guarantee you there's millions of them in the walls. You see one rat or mouse, I guarantee you there's dozens of them in here. You see, 40 pounds of meth coming across the border, I guarantee you there's 400 pounds coming across somewhere else down the line there. And in some cases, what these cartels will do is they'll sacrifice a drug mule and some dope in order to bring bigger shipment across. So maybe 40 pounds will get intercepted on purpose here, but down here, 400 pounds is going across. This is the kind of stuff they do. And so, to say that only 40 pounds went across, so it isn't a big deal. It is a big deal, because that 40 pounds, had it not been intercepted, how much damage could that 40 pounds of dope do? And like I say, I guarantee you that's the tip of the iceberg. What you're seeing is nothing compared to what's actually there. Anyway, bottom line is there's a lot of whining going on right now in this country about things, and we're being made, and we're all victims apparently, and all the rest of it. And woe is us. We got the big bad Americans threatening us and all the rest of it. If we weren't so weak and pathetic, that wouldn't be happening. If we're going to make the Mexican drug cartels comfortable here, when they come up here, if we're going to give them a kiss on the cheek and wash their feet for them, and tell them that you do whatever you want, darling, that's fine. We don't mind, well, then we're going to have these kinds of issues. And when we leave our border hanging wide open, you can close the front door of the house and lock it, but if you leave the back door hanging open, then the thieves are going to go in that way, that's all. So, if we're going to make it comfortable for the Mexican cartels to do business here, which we have done, and we're going to become the next pipeline into the United States for drugs, which we are in the process of doing now, well, then we can't expect a good reaction. That's the bottom line. And I don't say that for any other reason than it's just common sense. That's all. And we're lacking in that these days, But in the end, I don't see the United States overstepping in their dealings with us. I don't see them bullying us. I don't see them doing anything like that. What I see is that we need to clean things up a bit here. The stench and the flies from our garbage dump is drifting over the fence into our neighbor's yard. And our neighbor does have a right to complain about that. And we might need to clean that up anyway. If we clean it up and our neighbor's still complaining, well, then screw him. We did what we needed to do. But if we allow the problem to grow and fester, and they become a problem for our neighbors, then we can expect the knock on the door. We can expect the torch-carrying mob, basically. Anyway, that's it. When that happens, we won't be victims either. We will have done it to ourselves. Anyway, that's it. There's Rocky down there having a sleep. He's sleeping on my legs. On my leg there. He's got his head. Yeah. Anyway, we'll talk to y'all later.